Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on this very cold and wintry day. I'm Anissa Welch, and I'm the mayor of the city of Milton. The city of Milton and the townships of Milton, Harmony, Johnstown, and Lima welcome you to our press conference. Joining me today are Town of Johnstown Chair Rob Mulwiney, Milton Joint Fire Commission Chair, Alderperson Teresa Roosh, Town of Milton Chair and Joint Fire Commission Member Brian Meyer, Town of Harmony Chair Jeff Clenz, Town of Lima Chair Dave Kyle. We are gathered here today to make an exciting announcement about the future of the fire and EMS services in the city of Milton and the towns of Milton, Harmony, Johnstown, and Lima. We are announcing that our 5 municipalities will pursue a regional approach to fire and EMS services in the city of Milton and the towns of Milton, Harmony, Johnstown, and Lima. We will pursue a regional approach with our neighboring municipalities. After extensive research and discussions, we have unanimously decided on a petition and an intergovernmental agreement to submit to the Edgerton Fire Protection District for consideration. We find ourselves carrying forward a proud legacy of big collaborations that have preceded us. In 1920, the villages of Milton and Milton Junction and the surrounding townships planned, built, and opened a shared high school. A few decades later, the villages of Milton and Milton Junction consolidated to become the city of Milton. We have had an ongoing partnership with each other for years through the Milton and Town of Milton Joint Fire Department. Time and time again, leaders have concluded in various ways that when we combine our resources, we are stronger and better positioned to deliver key services our communities depend upon to flourish. It is in this historical spirit our 5 municipalities have come together yet again and made a unanimous decision to pursue a sustainable future of fire and EMS services for all of our community members. We appreciate the intense research, vetting, and engagement that has occurred between all of our municipalities. We thank all of the elected officials and the staff in all of the jurisdictions for their hard work over the last 18 months. We also thank our respective communities. They have heard and read about the fire and EMS for years and have been waiting for this day. We will elaborate on the background, the challenges we face, criteria we looked at to make our decision, explain the new intergovernmental agreement between the city and the townships, the petition to join the Edgerton Fire Protection District, and review our current operations. Chairman Brian Meyer from the Town of Milton will get us started.
Thank you, Anissa. For many decades, the City of Milton and the Town of Milton have jointly owned and operated a fire department located within the City of Milton. The current department covers nearly 90 square miles of territory, including the City of Milton, the towns of Milton, Harmony, Johnstown, Lima, and a small portion of Koshkonong Township. Fire and emergency medical services agencies across the nation, across Wisconsin, and here in Rock County are facing intensifying fiscal, service level, and staffing challenges that are threatening existing service models and prompting consideration of new approaches. The Milton Fire Department has a proud history of providing fire and EMS services to the communities it serves. This arrangement has been successful for many years and has provided exceptional service at a very low cost to the taxpayers. However, the increasing demand for service and the limited number of individuals willing and able to volunteer and respond to calls when needed has created the need to look at a sustainable model for fire and EMS services. As the 5 municipalities here explore options available, it was important to find the most cost-effective and sustainable solution for our community members. In order to address these challenges, these 5 municipalities have considered several options over the last year and a half, which includes discussing mergers, consolidation, a shared service models with multiple neighboring communities, including one that might have been Janesville. Restructuring the current Milton Department staffing model was also another consideration, and possibly ending a joint relationship between the City of Milton and the Town of Milton and creating multiple standalone departments. So these were all considered. The 5 municipalities ultimately and unanimously decided that a regional approach was the best model to pursue, and in that spirit have approved a petition for membership within the Edgerton Fire Protection District, because we believe it represents the best option to serve all of our communities long term and met our criteria to improve our overall level of service, to be sustainable long term, and to be the most cost effective. This model will also allow for shared governance of the department. All the municipalities would have a voice in critical decisions impacting the department. I'll turn it over to Jeff Klenz, Chair of the Town of Harmony. He'll talk about how the townships have gotten more deeply involved, our next steps, and what is included in our petition and intergovernment agreement.
Thank you, Brian. Can everybody hear me okay? I'd like to take a few minutes to give you a little more background on what led us to the petition and the intergovernmental agreement that we are pleased to present to the Edgerton Fire Protection District. In Wisconsin, townships are required by state law to provide fire and EMS services to the citizens. In Wisconsin, townships are required by state law to maintain a balanced budget. And in Wisconsin, townships are only able to raise tax levies by permission of the electors. All of those factors have come into this whole decision. The towns of Harmony, Johnstown, and Lima had been contracting for fire and EMS services with the City of Milton and the Town of Milton Fire Department for several years. I believe it's probably close to 40, maybe even 50 years we've been doing that. And all was going pretty good for all of those years. Sure, we heard some rumblings about needing a new station, needing more personnel, new equipment, but who believes in rumblings, you know? Anyways, in August of 2020, the town boards were hit with a substantial increase in the fire protection services. We were told the reason was an attempt to raise wages for part-time firefighters from $10 to $15, which in today's day is nothing. We were also told that it might help with getting some full-time staffs. As a result, the town boards, and I'm talking about all of us here, started looking into ways that we could continue providing professional fire and EMS services and a service that we would be able to maintain for years to come and at a cost that we could afford. What are some of the things that the town boards did? Number one, we started to pay more attention to this issue. We started to attend and get more involved with the Milton Fire Commission meetings. We looked into starting our own fire departments. I personally don't really want to get involved with that because it was just way too expensive for Harmony to start our own fire department. We looked into hiring the City of Janesville Fire Department exclusively for fire protection in Harmony Township, as well as the other townships. And again, we probably don't want to talk too much about that because it was way too expensive. Another problem with that is we wouldn't have any decision-making in that. The City of Janesville would build a new fire station. We wouldn't have a say in how big, how expensive, how fancy it was going to be. We wouldn't have a say in the equipment that they were going to put in it or the manpower that they were going to put in it. And I believe all of the townships had decided that we needed to have some kind of say in our future fire protection. Then in February of 2021, it appeared as though things were getting worse. It sounded as though the City of Milton and the Town of Milton Fire Department were going to go their separate ways. And then also our fees increased with our present contract agencies. They were skyrocketing. Milton Fire went from $72,920. This is that's what we paid in 2020, to $225,130 or $158 for the year 2021. Quite an increase. Then the Janesville city contacted us and advised us that their rates were going to go up. Now you have to understand that Janesville only covers 20% of Harmony Township, and they went up from $56,765 to $152,362 in the year 2024. So every year it was a huge increase. Then in early March, basically everybody was pretty depressed over the situation. But then in early March, Chairman Brian Meyer of Milton Township announced that Milton Township was talking with Chief Randy Pickering of the Edgerton Fire District. They were talking about a possible joint venture with the Edgerton Fire District, and quite frankly, when I talked with Brian, it was very interesting. Brian believed that building a new fire station and joining the Edgerton Fire Protection District to manage that station was the best route for us. A few days later then, I contacted Chief Pickering and spoke with him about a joint venture with Harmony Township. And I'm telling you right now, it made a lot of sense at that time. However, both Brian and I felt that it was important that we also work with Lima, Johnstown, and possibly the city of Milton. Brian believed, let me see here. Brian believed building a new fire station and joining the Edgerton Fire Protection District and have them managed was our best route. And after our conversations, we contacted Johnstown and Lima, and we started talking together, coming up with some ideas and plans. Brian's idea of putting a station on the far east side of the town of Milton would best serve Lima, Johnstown, and Harmony, and part of Milton Township. But that, at that time, that decision was, kind of hard pressed. We really didn't know how to handle that because we still had the east or the west side of Milton and the west side of Harmony that needed fire protection. So we continued to look into it, and I guess that was one of the reasons why we thought about going with Edgerton as well. We could maybe come up with a station on the west side of Milton. So the chairs at that time spent the last year or so meeting with Brian Myers, and amongst ourselves, we met with Chief Rhodes of the City of Janesville, the Whitewater Fire Department, and we eventually talked again with the City of Milton in regards to this possible venture. Taking the town chair's positions, all of this work took my part-time job as a town chairman, and as well as the other town chairs, to a full-time status. I mean, we were spending hours and hours on meetings and looking into different things. The town board chairs, the town clerks, the board supervisors started to dig deep into this. We began examining maps of the townships, checking for possible response times, best locations for possible fire stations, the equipment needed for this venture, staffing requirements, and cost analysis. We spent hours and hours looking at this. We started to gather feedback from our citizens. We attended the Edgerton Fire Protection District meetings. We held multi-township meetings discussing the venture. After figuring all the numbers, it became very clear that the City of Milton would also benefit from this. And eventually then we went to the City of Milton, to their fire commission, showed them the program that we had been thinking about, and then eventually we went to Mayor Welsh and the City Council to explain it to them. After months of work as a group, we all decided that this was the way to go. And finally, in December of 2021, we unanimously developed an intergovernmental agreement between the towns of Harmony, Town of Johnstown, Town of Lima, Town of Milton, and the City of Milton. We unanimously developed a petition for membership in the Edgerton Fire Protection District. The petition, which will be submitted to the Edgerton Fire District Board on January 12th of this year. This petition outlines the expectations of the Edgerton Fire Protection District for membership, as well as the commitments of all 5 municipalities are willing to make in order to ensure acceptance in the district. We felt that this is a one-shot deal, that we had to come up with the perfect solution that would help all 5 municipalities as well as the Edgerton Fire Protection District. The petition commits the 5 municipalities to the governance and staffing structure of the Edgerton Fire Protection District, as well as the willingness to construct 2 new stations to serve the region encompassing the 5 municipalities. Additionally, the 5 municipalities have agreed unanimously to an intergovernmental agreement which outlines roles and responsibilities related to the funding of the new stations and staffing structure and capital expenditures related to the construction of the 2 new stations and equipment necessary to operate those stations. Under the intergovernmental agreement, the 5 municipalities have worked together to design, site, and develop a funding model for the 2 new stations. Each municipality will find their respective share of the construction costs based on equalized value. Equalized values, if you don't know, is the way in which school districts are funded by multiple municipalities. 1 station will be constructed on a recently purchased land along East High Street in the town of Milton, and that'll be called the Milton East Station. And the second station, the Milton West Station, will be constructed on the west side of Milton on one of several tracts of land currently being evaluated. The 5 municipalities have contracted with 5 Bugles Design to help design and plan for those facilities. Milton Fire and EMS service will continue to be provided from the current station, the one we're in here today, until those 2 new stations are built. And to clear up any confusion that might be out there, and the reason I say this is because I personally have gotten calls from some of the citizens of Harmony saying, you mean to tell me that if my house is on fire or my husband is having a stroke, we have to wait until a fire truck or an ambulance comes from the Edgerton station? I'm telling you now that that's not the case. We're going to continue responding to fires from this station until the new ones are built, and once those are built, all calls will then come from those 2 new stations. I guess this has definitely been the best possible service for the 5 municipalities. There's no question about it. And at this time, I guess I'd like to say, for all the hard work and dedication to this historic venture, I would personally like to thank all the town chairs, the town clerks, and the town supervisors who've worked hours and hours on this. I'd like to thank Mayor Welsh and the Milton City Council members, the Milton City Administrator Al Hulick, the Milton Fire Commission members, Chief Pickering and the Edgerton Fire Protection District Board. I'd like to thank Chris Peel and Brian Becker of the Rock County Communication Centers for making all of the maps and gathering all of the call data that we used. If you guys ever had been in my office, we have walls of maps of response times and stuff like that, and that's what helped us make our decisions. I'd also like to thank all of the Milton town and the town of Milton fire personnel, people who were standing in the back there, for their patience and understanding of how long this is taking. Their careers depend on it. I'd also like to thank our attorneys, Michael Ulrich and Mark Schroeder, for their outstanding work on developing and making us go the right directions. And then I guess I would really like to give a special thank you to Brian Meyer for having a vision of this and seeing it through. Next, I'd like to introduce Teresa Roosh, the chairperson of the Milton Joint Fire Commission, to talk about the 2022 year for fire protection. Teresa?
Oh, sure. Oh, I thought you were leaving. Okay, thank you. Well, it's important that we all understand that there will be no lapse in service during 2022. The staff has risen to meet great needs for the community and townships and will continue to do so. Nonetheless, the demand for calls has increased significantly and continues to do so. Meeting this upsurge in demands at this rate is not sustainable or cost efficient within our current framework. Our prior arrangement with Janesville was primarily for management services. In moving forward during the transition period, Jeremy Parker has been promoted to fire chief for the Milton Fire Department. In addition to Chief Parker, the battalion chiefs continue to be Pete Morey and Chris Lucas. Rob Calhoun has been added to fill Jeremy Parker's battalion chief role with his promotion to the chief position. In order to continue providing full-time paramedic EMS services The Joint Fire Commission approved the addition of a new full-time staff member to the department for 2022. Lastly, we want to thank our paramedic, EMS, and fire service providers, fire chief and battalion chiefs for continuing to ensure excellence in services amidst the many changes taking place as we move forward. It's been admirable and greatly appreciated throughout the community and the townships. Thank you. And now, to wrap up our prepared comments, I would like to hand it back to Mayor Welch.
I want to thank Brian, Jeff, Teresa, Rob, and Dave for joining me up here today. We embarked on a common mission to face the challenges that have been presented to us. We determined that the criteria of improved service to meet the needs of our growing communities in an efficient and sustainable manner would be the structure to examine our options. We immersed ourselves in research, vetting, and collaboration. We all came to the same conclusion, that pursuing a sustainable and cost-effective regional approach was clearly the best option. That led us to developing the intergovernmental agreement and petition to join the Edgerton Fire Protection District. We collectively and genuinely believe it is the best option for our communities. The next step is to submit the petition and the corresponding intergovernmental agreement to the Edgerton Fire Protection District Board at their January 12th meeting. The Edgerton Fire Protection District Board will then evaluate the petition and intergovernmental agreement over the course of the next few months. Specifically, the district will evaluate the commitments made in the petition to ensure that the district's ability to provide sound fire protection and EMS services to the new municipalities without negatively impacting the service it provides to its existing municipalities. If accepted, the 5 municipalities will begin to formalize the design and timeline for construction of the 2 new stations and begin making plans for a referendum likely to occur in late 2022. The hope is to begin transitioning towards fully integrating with the Edgerton Fire Protection District in late 2022 and early 2023. The timeline is not set in stone, and it could be adapted based on deliberations of the Edgerton Fire Protection District Board. This is one of the chapters in our shared history. We get to write this chapter and the rest that follow with an expanded community. Like those whose steps we follow in, it is our intention to continue to fortify a strong foundation of collaboration that will be carried forward by future generations. I want to thank everyone for attending today, and we will open for questions from the press. Brian is going to answer, but he needs you to repeat the question.
Sure. So in order for this transition to happen, will Janesville need to be paid for any existing services, or will there be?
Got some feedback here.
Actually,
Mic's off.
Harmony Township will still have the city of Janesville covering 20% of our, which is what we've done in past. 80% of the township will be covered by the new Edgerton Fire District once the buildings are established.
But to answer the general part of your question, no, their services, which basically provided access to chief management for a fire chief, ended December 31st. So from a shared resources aspect of the intergovernmental agreement we had with the city of Janesville. The city of Janesville had opted out on that, which was effective December 31st already. So while we do maintain, like we do with all of our neighboring fire districts, mutual aid services and auto aid services, those relationships will continue with any neighboring communities like it already has existed with Edgerton, like it has existed with Fort Atkinson and Whitewater, even Beloit. All of those communities, we'll have those shared kind of general assistance resources, but from our contractual intergovernmental agreement for shared management, that has already ended.
Tristan.
Talking about public information sessions. I'm assuming that once you petition formally on the 12th and the considerations are taking place afterward within the Edgerton Fire Protection District, that district will be holding a series of informational sessions. Right, Chief Pickering would be these times. So would you hold information sessions in tandem with those with your constituency, or will you wait until the Edgerton district formally accepts your petition and decides on the form before you start a public campaign of information?
Well, my general perception of that is really, that's in Edgerton's district's hands. So however they want to proceed and handle their consideration. So our petition for membership is simply a request to join and expand their existing district. We see that as their process, their considerations. So we'll simply be, for the lack of a better word, waiting on what do they see fit? Do they have questions? Do they want to deliberate and work on that piece by piece? Or I think that's really something that would be in Edgerton's hands.
We have developed a list of bullet point fact sheets, commonly asked questions that will be available on our website. We have some of them here. They'll be available on the township's website, so everybody understands where we currently are. And then we will wait for the Edgerton Fire Protection District to guide us further. And then once we have a decision, then we will have more materials and more refinement and educational materials, because we recognize that we all went through a very long process to come to this decision, but our respective communities have not. So we owe it to them to be as clear and provide as much information to them so they can make an informed decision.
Have you been able to capture any cost, number one, what the total transitional cost might be for your five municipalities to join, and then the long-term cost under the IGA, after 20 years before you retire the debt on the two stations?
So we've started collecting some raw data, and certainly from today moving forward this year, we'll be working on those kind of numbers. We don't have final numbers yet, but we have a process in mind and how to collect and divide the data that will be available in the near future. But that's in its raw form right now, and estimates and how the process will go financially.
One final one, in regards to staffing. Is there an anticipated increase in your staffing count once there are going to be the two stations? Because right now, Edgerton Fire, I believe, has 6 full-time. It has 10 full-time, and it has 40-some. So do you anticipate from what you have presently that there will be an increase? This increase?
From a sheer housing standpoint, there certainly would be some increase, but it's also important to note that there is a staffing model. We would assume we'd be operating with the model that Edgerton currently uses, which includes full-time staffing, paid on call. So it isn't just a full-time status only, but yes, to serve 2 buildings, I would assume that there's some more staffing, maybe some of the part-time paid on call would melt into some full-time positions, but I want to make sure that we understand that, and we understand Edgerton's current model uses all of that type of staffing as a whole. So it wouldn't be assumed initially to be all full-time.
So we would have more full-time, but it would be a combination model. We need more full-time staff to keep up with the current level of calls, and we would continue with Edgerton Fire Protection District model of a combination staffing.
So I just had a couple more. As far as the more near term, has Milton Communications reached back out in response to your request for proposal?
Yes, the city council approved the city administrator to negotiate a contract for Miller Communications to assist us going forward with this collaboration. And we have met with them once so far.
Any kind of timeline as far as when that might wrap up? As far as the contract went?
I would imagine that we would approve a contract with them either this month or in February.
Okay, and then you had mentioned, sorry, I was going something about response times. Will this new partnership with Edgerton help cut down on those response times at all, or will it be kind of similar?
Yeah. Yes, we believe very strongly that once the 2 new stations are built and up and running, that our response times will be quite a bit better than what they are right now. I'm sorry?
Oh, does that seem to be kind of across the board for the other townships and
Yes, that's one of the reasons that we built the east side stations, to help improve response times into Lima and Johnstown, as well as Harmony.
And part of that is having an increased number of full-time staff available to answer those calls. That significantly increases, or shortens, I would say, significantly shortens our response time with the increased number of full-time staff. All right. If there's no further questions, again, we really want to thank you for coming today, and we look forward to more information sharing in the future.
Something that I forgot to point out, big mistake here, but I want to make sure that you take a look at the artist renderings of the possible new stations that we'd be building. This one would be the west side station, Milton West. This would be the east station. You'll notice that it says Town of Milton Town Hall. That is not part of this solution here, okay? So that's just a...
Yeah, we're considering an adjacent facility that's unrelated to the Fire Protection District. So yeah, and these are just concept renderings based on what we think facility needs are. These are in no way and no means final floor plans or anything like that. This is to try to resolve what we believe the facility needs represent.
There's also some, the City of Milton had Wisconsin Policy Forum help us investigate possible models for EMS and fire safety, and those studies are available at Wisconsin Policy Forum's website. Also, there's a couple of articles in the Wisconsin State Journal that further explain some of the challenges that all of the fire and EMS service providers are facing, not only across the state of Wisconsin, but across the whole country. All right.
You done?
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much for
Thanks.
coming. We appreciate it.